Hi friends, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jenna. I love to crochet plushies, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. For today's video, I will be doing a deep dive into how you can create your very own Etsy shop and run your very own crochet business. I get so many questions on YouTube and Instagram asking how you guys could create your very own crochet business, and I am finally here to walk you through step by step on how to open up an Etsy shop and start selling your crochet plushies. With that being said though, I just wanted to say I am not a professional by any means. I just wanted to share how I personally set up my shop and give you guys a few tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. But okay, with that, let's jump into today's video. Just so you guys know, I usually never plan out my videos in terms of a script or anything. I just speak my mind. But for this video, I did take some notes because I want to make sure I hit on all the important points. So if you see me looking down at my iPad, that is why. But okay, for the first part of this video, I want to talk about all of the pre-work required to making your own crochet business. So we're not going to be talking about setting up your shop quite yet. This is everything that you need to plan out before you actually go ahead and open up your shop. I'm going to go through some questions that I came up with for you guys that I think is really important for you to think about and answer before you go ahead and set up your shop, because this kind of lays the foundation for how you want to operate your crochet business. Okay, so the questions are, how are you going to sell? Are you going to sell solely on Etsy? Are you going to build your own website? Are you going to do a combination of both? Branding. What is your shop's name going to be? The description, and overall, what is your logos and branding colors going to look like? How many plushies are you going to offer when you first open up your shop, and what are the prices? Do you want to operate as a made-to-order shop, or do you want to make everything ahead of time and do drops? Do you want to offer customizations? What turnaround time do you want to set for your customers? And lastly, what kind of marketing do you want to do to promote your shop? Okay, so I know that sounds like a lot of questions and it can be definitely overwhelming to think about, but you don't have to answer these questions concretely, if that makes sense. You can just give yourself a rough ballpark answer. Keep in mind too, as you start operating your business, you will see what works well and what doesn't, and you will adjust probably a lot of your answers to these questions as time goes on. But okay, so for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna tell you guys how I answered those questions when I first started planning out my shop. And by sharing my answers, I hope this helps you guys approach these questions a little easier and gives you an idea of how you wanna run your shop. Okay, so starting with question number one, how are you going to sell your plushies? So ultimately, I decided to open up an Etsy shop and I decided to sell solely on Etsy. I didn't want to make my own website. I just wanted to have everything in one place on Etsy. And Etsy was really appealing to me because it had so much potential for organic traffic to come and see my shop. I know having your own website does sound appealing as well because you get to fully customize everything. You don't have a lot of the fees that Etsy has, but you are responsible for getting everybody to your website. So you have to really work hard on marketing. You have to probably spend some money in terms of marketing, and you really have to focus on just getting your audience to your website in general. Whereas on Etsy, if someone wants to look for a crochet elephant, they can just type in crochet elephant in the search, and your shop and your listings have the possibility of popping up for those customers. And you don't even have to lift a finger. That's just how powerful Etsy's audience is, and that was just the main selling point for me. I'd say too, if you don't have a big social media following in general, so when I first opened my shop, I opened it in January of 2022. I think I had 1,000 followers at that point on Instagram, and I still was able to sell over $1,000 on Etsy during my first 2 months. And that's solely because Etsy's traffic helped me out a lot. A lot of my sales were not coming from my Instagram, my followers, because my following was so small. Had I had my own website, I think I wouldn't have done as well because a lot of my audience would be my Instagram followers, and I just didn't have that many for them to go on and buy a bunch of stuff from my website. Looking back, if I were to create my crochet business from scratch, I would still pick Etsy as my selling platform, but I would do one thing differently. So this is my Etsy store. As you can see, it has a super long, difficult to remember URL. There is a very little chance of your customers will actually remember it and memorize it. Therefore, if I were to start again, I would get a branded link for my Etsy store. A branded link is nothing but a short, easy to remember URL that simply redirects to your actual storefront. So everything stays exactly the same, but your URL for your Etsy store gets a facelift. And this actually brings brings us to today's sponsor, Link.Store. Link.Store is a unique tool that provides marketplace sellers, such as myself, with a free branded link for their existing marketplace URL. This means that instead of having a super hard link for your store, marketplace sellers, such as myself, can now share a simple and memorable link to their audience. Not only does it look like more professional and more trustworthy, data says that you can have 48% more clicks on this type of branded link versus a lengthy marketplace URL. So the process of getting and setting up a free branded link from Link.Store is super simple. All you have to do is go to www.link.store, enter your Etsy URL, choose your desired branded link. So for me, it was crochetbyjenna.store. Link.Store will then auto forward your branded link to your marketplace store. And then once you have your branded link, you can use it across all of your platforms, so Instagram, YouTube, etc., to really make your brand identity cohesive. Let's check out some examples of Etsy sellers who have already done this. So the first example is Shop Bluehem. I pulled up their Instagram page right here, and as you can see, they have the branded link right here in their bio. If I go ahead and click on that, it will auto forward to their Etsy store. Okay, the next example is going to be Art with M. So if we go to Google and type in www.artwithm.store, it will automatically auto forward to their Etsy store, which is honestly super nice because that was so quick and it was like so streamlined. Okay, and one more example. So this is eggystudio.co on Instagram, and they make super cute clay stuff, just saying. But as you can see, they have their branded link right here in their bio, and if I click on that, it will seamlessly bring me to their Etsy store. Your branded link on Link.Store is free for the first 6 months, and no credit card is required. It's really a no-brainer for any marketplace seller. I've already got mine, and I highly recommend using your own branded link for your Etsy store. Okay, so now going back to the questions, the next question is along the lines of branding. So originally, when I first opened my Etsy store, it was called like Crochet X Plushies. And I don't know how I came up with that name, but like shortly after I rebranded and became Crochet by Jenna. And then same thing with my Instagram. When I first made my crochet Instagram, it was like Crochet X Plushies. And then I changed to Crochet by Jenna to keep everything cohesive. Definitely recommend whatever you decide to name your Etsy shop, try to make an Instagram with a similar username so people will be able to follow you and find you across multiple platforms. So when I made the decision to change my name to Crochet by Jenna, I did it because I thought it was definitely more personable, it's more unique to me, and I really wanted to create my own like brand and like image. So when you're thinking about what you want to name your Etsy store, definitely try to make it like personable to yourself, because at the end of the day, you are trying to build up your own brand, your own reputation, and it's important to have like a piece of yourself in that brand. In terms of the description, I kept my description pretty short and sweet. I definitely recommend thinking about it kind of like a catchphrase. So my description says, the cutest handmade crochet plushies. Short, simple, and it lets people know what exactly my shop sells. And then in terms of like my logo, my color palette, I definitely switched it up a lot as well, but my current color palette is more on like the neutral side. I really like the beiges, the light pinks, and then of course, me being a cat lover, I had to have a cat as like my logo. I definitely recommend using Canva to play around with all the different logos. They have so many great templates that you can like literally customize to your own needs. And like, I'm not that creative in terms of like graphics, so having like all of the different like logo choices to pick from definitely helped me. It's also important to note that Etsy really rewards shops that are completely filled out. So shops that have like a logo, a banner, a description, the profile page is filled out, etc. So make sure to fill out all of these things before launching your Etsy, just so your shop will be promoted more. And like from a customer standpoint, if I am shopping on Etsy and I see that a shop doesn't have like a banner, doesn't have a logo, I can't read about the seller, I'm kind of turned off. Okay, so in terms of how many plushies I decided to sell when I first opened up my shop, I honestly just decided to sell the plushies that I already had made. Part of the reason why I wanted to start my own crochet shop is that I was just like accumulating way too many plushies. Like I had them just like all around my house, so I'm like, I need to share these. I need them to like go to their forever home. So I definitely recommend when you first start out, like don't like overload yourself. Definitely like maybe make like 5 to start out with, see how they do. and then you can go from there. But don't feel pressure to have like all of this inventory. Like definitely don't like make it too crazy for yourself when you first start out. Okay, and now in terms of like how you want your shop to operate, do you want it to be made to order or do you want to do drops? I personally have always been a made to order shop. So what made to order means is that I like list a bunch of plushies that I am willing to make, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are already made. So when a customer buys a turtle from me, the majority of the time I have not made that turtle and I will make it specifically for that customer. So it's called made to order. The upside to this is that you really kind of stand out from competition. From what I've seen, crochet plushies are hard to get. Like usually people do drops, so the plushies are only available for adoption at a certain time. Whereas if you're a made to order shop, you will always have plushies, quote, available for people to buy. So people are more likely to purchase from your shop more frequently, if that makes sense. The downside to that though is that sometimes it can be really cumbersome if you get like a lot of orders. I personally have had to like close my shop down because I'm just like too overwhelmed with like all of the orders. So as a tip, I would say if you are gonna do made to order, definitely like cap yourself at a certain amount of orders so you don't get like overwhelmed. So for example, if you got like 10 orders in your queue to make, I would definitely say like maybe close down your shop because it just gets crazy and then you don't want to like fall behind on orders and ship out the plushies late. So yeah, like I would definitely be careful if you do made to order. Definitely like set a limit for yourself. And then for the other option, it's called doing drops. So you make a bunch of plushies and then you set a date when these plushies will be available for adoption, aka a drop, and then you will like market it to your Instagram followers, you will market it just in general to however you're marketing, and then people will like set their calendars and they're like, okay, on October 15th at 9 a.m. I am going to try and buy this plushie that I want from this seller. I think the upside to this is that you can really like make whatever your heart desires. So I know drops are fun if like there's a certain holiday. So for like Halloween, people have Halloween drops, so they make all of the Halloween themed plushies and then they like have the drop happen kind of close to Halloween. And then if you want to like experiment and make a bunch of different plushies, then you have the entire freedom to do so because nobody has bought the plushies yet. You are making them to sell. It's kind of like a market, honestly. You prep everything and make everything up front. You build this inventory and then you put them out to the world and let people try and buy them at a certain date. I think the con to doing this is that you never know how your drop will go. I feel like it takes a lot of like social media marketing to get people excited about the drop. People have to know about the drop, so you have to like do a lot of push for marketing on social media. I feel like it helps if you have like a big social media following. So I feel like in the beginning it might be hard to do drops and it might be better to just do made to order, but that's just my personal opinion. Okay, next question is, do you want to offer customizations? Part of my success, I feel, is that I did offer a lot of customizations, whereas a lot of other crochet sellers don't. I love doing commission pieces. I love like tweaking plushies to the customer's needs and wants to make it special for them. Since I am operating as a made to order shop, I don't have anything made like up front. So if a customer wants a different color for a plushie, I'm like, okay, that's fine because like I have the yarn and I haven't made it yet. That being said, it is kind of hard to like anticipate what customizations customers would want. I have run into the problem where like a customer wants a color that I don't have, so then I have to go buy it, and that of course will tack onto the price and that will cause the price to increase, and sometimes customers back out because the price is too high. So it definitely has its pros and cons. I personally love offering like custom orders. I love taking customizations, but everyone's different. In the beginning, if you don't have like a good yarn stash and like you don't have a lot of colors, maybe don't offer customizations, or just be upfront with your customers like, hey, if you want this plushie customized, I have black, red, and blue yarn, so take your pick. I feel like another perk to offering customizations is that you can kind of like tack the prices up a little higher just because it is something off the beaten path and like you are doing something special for the customer, so you can charge them a little more. Okay, next, what should the turnaround time be? So when a customer places an order, usually the processing time is like how long it will take you to make that plushie, pack it up and get it shipped out to the customer. Not necessarily like when the customer will receive it in the mail, but just like the time it takes from receiving the order to getting it shipped. So in the beginning, I think since I didn't offer as many plushies and I wasn't getting as many sales on a like daily basis, I definitely had the processing time like quicker. I think I did like 3 to 5 days. And on Etsy, it does tell you that like customers will gravitate towards listings that have a shorter turnaround time because obviously like everybody wants things ASAP in today's world. But with that being said, crochet is extremely manual. It is an art. We have to take our time. So my tip to you guys and a lesson that I've learned is that like don't undercut the processing time. Like it's okay to say like, hey, this plushie is gonna take me 1 to 2 weeks to get out to you, because it's better to have more time built in and ship it out quicker than the customer expects than, you know, the opposite. Having the turnaround time set for like 5 days and then it takes 10 days and now you have an upset customer. Always, always, always bake in more time than you think is necessary, because you never know like how many orders you're gonna be juggling, just life in general. It's always just nice to give yourself a few extra days. I think my turnaround time now is like around 2 weeks, honestly. And that's definitely like way more time than I need. And I usually ship things out quicker, but you know, it keeps my customers' expectations in check. But then also it's a nice surprise to them when they receive their plushie like a week early. So it's like a win-win. I'm not stressed and my customers end up happy and everything is operating on time. Okay, so I actually didn't mention this question earlier, but I have it on my list here, and it is, how do you want to package and ship out your plushies to customers? In the beginning, I chose the cheapest option, so I used like plastic poly mailer bags to ship out my plushies, but since then I've upgraded my shipping to boxes. I switched over because I found that poly mailers, like my plushies, would get crushed when delivered to a customer, just because like they always get like beat up during shipping, and I didn't like that. I wanted my plushies to look the same as when I shipped them out to my customer, to when my customer like opened the package from me. So that's why I ultimately switched over to boxes. I'll link all my supplies down below, by the way, in the description box. Boxes are more expensive to buy, so you do have to factor in all of the supply costs into your prices of your plushies. I think starting out though, it's totally fine doing like the cheapest option, especially if you're gonna be offering like free shipping to entice your customers. There's nothing wrong with poly mailers. It is just everybody's personal preference, and I never had a customer like complain about the state of their plushie when they receive the plushie, so that's good. Okay, and then lastly, what kind of marketing do you want to do for your shop? I think in the beginning I definitely used Etsy ads, which is a great tool, and I'll dive into that a little more later. Definitely just post on social media, create a specific Instagram page just for your crochet business. That way you can post on it daily and you can start building up an audience. And then I think like you can also pay for ads through Instagram or like Facebook. So definitely keep that in mind too. If you're first starting out, I do feel like it is important to build up to your first like initial 1,000 followers, just to like get yourself out there, have people like look at your account and start getting familiar with your brand. But of course, again, it's all personal preference. I did not like spend a lot of money at all on marketing. I just made sure to consistently post on my Instagram every day. I like to post on my story. I made sure to follow other crochet accounts, and then naturally over time my account grew. Hello friends, it is Editing Jenna. I decided to come back on because I realized I did not touch upon a very, very important topic: Etsy fees, startup cost, and honestly just like the fear of putting your work out there. I get so many messages from people saying how they'd love to start a business, but ultimately their fear, their anxiety, their like second guessing holds them back, and I totally get it. Putting your art out there is such a vulnerable thing. It's definitely like a source of anxiety. Thinking about failure, thinking like worst case scenario. Trust me, I've been there, and I think what like helped me overcome like the fear of putting my work out there is just like my love and passion for crochet. At the end of the day, I know that like I love my work, I love the plushies that I make, so that is like all the validation that I need. And I know it's hard to think like that, and failure is such a hard thing, but I think through all of my previous past business failures, it really has taught me that like it doesn't matter what other people think of your work. As long as you're having fun, as long as you're happy with your work, That's all that matters. But with that point, I think it's important to say that if you're not happy and like in love with your work, maybe it's not the right time to start selling. I think you have to be really happy with your products to be able to put them out into the world and for others to buy them. That's just me personally, but when I got to that point in my crochet journey where I'm like, I love my plushies, I want to share these with people, that's kind of what signaled to me like, hey, I'm gonna open up a shop. So definitely take some time to like reflect and ask yourself, like, regardless of what other people think, regardless of the possibility of failure, are you happy with your crochet? Are you wanting to share it with the world? Are you ready to take that step? And by answering those questions and thinking about it, I think it'll definitely help you realize like, hey, let's open up a shop, or like, hey, let's give it like a month. Okay, next is Etsy fees. So the bad side to Etsy, or like the controversial side to Etsy, is that there are so many dang fees, but I understand they are giving you such an amazing platform to sell on, and they make it super easy, so like they have to have a cut, right? I'm gonna be honest with you guys and share how much I paid in fees back in, I guess, August, or no? Yeah, let's share August results because right now it's like still September, so I'm not done the month, so let me pull it up on my computer. Okay, and in case you don't know, there's 3 types of fees that Etsy collects for every transaction. One is the listing fee, so that's 20 cents per listing. So every time someone buys an item from you and you need to restock that item, you'll pay 20 cents. Also, if you're just listing an item and nobody sells it, to create that initial listing, it is 20 cents. Second is the transaction fee. That is 6.5% of your total sale. And lastly is the processing fee, which is 3% of the order total plus an additional 25 cents. So altogether, it is a lot in fees that you are paying. In August of this month, I paid $2,300 in fees alone. And that might sound like a lot just because I sold over $14,000 worth on Etsy. So if you're not selling as much or in that ballpark, the fees will be way lower. But still at the end of the day, you are paying fees. So a lot of people usually start on Etsy and then they transition off of Etsy because they get sick of the fees. I personally haven't transitioned off of Etsy just because, like, for all the reasons I mentioned in this video, I really love the platform and I think the fees are worth it to me. But of course, it is everybody's opinion. It's everyone's personal preference. You guys do what you think is best for your business. But I did want to call to attention the Etsy fees portion of using the platform. And then in terms of startup costs, to sell on Etsy, it literally doesn't cost you anything at all to sign up. To put your first listing out there, it costs 20 cents. So I'd say if you're scared to start an Etsy because you're not sure if it'll be profitable, the worst thing that could happen is that you list like 5 products, you pay $1 total for those listings and they don't sell. To me, I think that's the great thing about Etsy. If you do want to put yourself out there, you don't have to necessarily pay anything like big up front. I know other websites such as like Shopify or like even creating your own website, you have to pay a lot of fees up front. You have to pay for a domain, you have to pay for the service. So like a lot more is at stake. So that's another reason why I think Etsy is great, because startup cost wise, it is extremely low. In terms of your crochet supplies, I think you can also be pretty minimal when starting. When I first started, I literally just got maybe like 2 skeins, one of each color, I think like a white and like a beige, so I can make a turtle. So I think that was like $20. Then you can buy like 1 hook, or you can go on Amazon and buy like a hook set, which is like way cheaper than buying individual hooks. You can get like a hook set for like 12 bucks on Amazon. So you'll have a good majority of the hook sizes and you can play around with that. So all in, maybe to start crocheting, it would be like $50. And then for supplies, you could definitely go the poly mailer route and get like a pack of them for like 10 bucks. You get like 100. So you don't have to like invest a lot of money in packaging in the beginning just because you don't know what volume of orders you're going to be dealing with. I definitely went the poly mailer route when I first started and it was great. Like, it was fine. I told you guys I never got a complaint, and then slowly as my business evolved, I started getting cute and, you know, getting boxes, getting cute custom packaging, but you don't have to do that in the beginning. So like ultimately to start a crochet business, maybe $100 tops is a great, you know, startup budget. But okay, I hope that sheds some light on some like important questions / topics that I did not touch on in the original video. Hello guys, it is Editing Jenna once again. I know I keep coming on, but I wanted to touch on another topic that I did not talk about. So I run my Etsy shop part-time. I actually have a full-time corporate job. So I get a lot of questions from you guys regarding like time management. How do I handle working full-time and running an Etsy shop? So let me share with you kind of like my schedule. Since I do get a good amount of orders on a weekly basis when my shop is open, I definitely try to hold myself accountable and like close down my shop if I go over a certain order threshold. Usually I've been closing down my shop if I go over 20, but I think honestly that is even too much for me. I think I should close down like if I reach 10 orders or more in a given week. So that's one thing. It's like definitely set a limit to yourself. Don't have your shop open and having the orders piling up and you're like getting stressed, because when you get stressed, the fun gets taken out of it and then it really feels like work. I think the reason why I'm able to do both, you know, work a full-time job and run my crochet business is because I truly love crocheting and I don't view it as work. Sorry, my camera died. But anyway, like I was saying, so like definitely don't overburden yourself with crochet where it becomes like a hassle and stressful and it seems like work. I think that's like my #1 tip, and that's why I'm able to balance it and like sustain it for so long. I've been doing this for over like a 1.5 years now. Make sure you really enjoy running your business. But okay, so I usually work 9 to 5 during the weekdays. So then after I log off work, I really dedicate like 5 to like 9 o'clock to crocheting. And a lot of people don't see like the admin side that goes into running a business. So I will say like keeping up with all my messages on Instagram, replying to YouTube comments, replying to emails, replying to messages on Etsy, scheduling social media posts, editing social media posts, filming YouTube videos, editing YouTube videos, editing pictures, running my Patreon. Like, it is a lot of admin work, and I think that side of running a small business is definitely kind of where you'll spend the majority of your time. Like, as surprising as that is, I think the majority of my time is spent more on admin versus like actually crocheting. So when people ask me kind of like what the time commitment looks like, I always try to dedicate, you know, like 5 to 9 p.m. strictly as crochet, and then on the weekends I play catch up and I'm able to like knock a lot of stuff out. But again, it's like important to have a work-life balance. Just with like a corporate job, it's important to have that with your crochet life. Some weekends I'm busy doing social events. Same thing during the work week. Life happens, I'm busy and I can't, you know, dedicate the 5 to 9 to crochet. That's totally okay. That kind of brings me into my second point. I think it's really important to like stay organized. I love keeping a calendar. I love writing down all my deadlines, scheduling out like ahead of time what I want to post on YouTube, on Instagram, etc. But then also I think like having a set schedule and having a mindset like I'm going to dedicate X amount of hours to crochet every day, I think that will definitely help you get into a routine. It's definitely not easy, but if you're passionate about it and really love it, it is definitely manageable and doable. When I first started out, I will say it was a bit easier just because I didn't have to deal with, you know, the sheer amount of like orders, admin work, comments, YouTube videos. Like, I didn't even have my YouTube. So I think when you first start out, it's a good idea to start small and maybe see if you're able to handle both like a full-time job and then a little side hustle, and then slowly over time as you like adjust your schedule to having a small business, a small side hustle, you can start incorporating more things like starting a YouTube channel or like starting a Patreon. I think it is important to start off simple and small and take baby steps, and then as your business grows organically, you'll be able to like reassess and say like, am I able to handle this still? Can I take on more? And yeah, the most important thing is to dive in, take that leap of faith, and really just try. The worst thing that can happen is that it won't work out. And then honestly, even if that happens, you can just like reflect back and say like, why didn't it work out? Like, what didn't work for me? And then you can just brainstorm some ways to overcome those roadblocks. But yeah, okay, I hope that helps. Editing Jenna out. All right, I think that brings us to the end of this part 1 video on how to open up your own Etsy shop. In part 2, we will be going over step by step how you actually open up your own Etsy shop and put out your first listing. Originally, I wanted this video to be all in one and not break it up into 2 parts, but like I didn't realize that I was speaking for so long long. Like this video is already like 30 minutes. So for your guys' sake, I am just cutting this video in half. So hopefully if you need help with just like the pre-work, you can focus on this video. If you need help with actually setting up the Etsy, you can focus on part 2. But alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video helped anyone out there who wants to set up their own Etsy shop. You guys got this. Like, do not let fear hold you back. And I will catch you in part 2. Have a great day. Bye.